But we're going to begin right there with the result that just finished a little bit ago. 7 o'clock kickoff, about a 4-hour game. I'll tell you what, clock rules didn't really slow down what was going on in Texas and Alabama, but a lot of that had to do with the touchdowns in the second half. Final score, Texas 34, Alabama 24. The best win of the college football season so far.
Yeah.
No, maybe the best win we might have all season.
Yeah. Pretty possible, yeah.
Yeah.
I would think so.
Right? I mean, this is what Texas has in its pocket. Like we talk about how's Texas going to handle expectations. That was a big talking point coming into the year. First time that they'd been projected to win the Big 12 since 2009. Now you've got a win against Alabama in week 2 in your pocket. What are you going to do with it? Is a college football playoff contender with capital CFPC. What did we see?
I was trying to figure out what the C was for a second. I was like, CFPC, what?
Yeah, the contender. Yeah, capital CFPC. What did we see from Texas? Where did this game break their way in your eyes? And then we can get into the big picture stuff. Let's start nitty gritty.
I think they were physical enough.
Yep.
Right? Like you knew Bama was going to be really physical on both lines of scrimmage. And was Bama more physical? You can probably argue that, but at the same time, they weren't so physical. They were able to throw the knockout punch, and to me, that was really the key. And then look, we talked about this. Sark would probably be able to scheme up a few big shot plays. And you know what? This time when Quinn Ewers got his pitch, he didn't miss. He had never thrown a touchdown that had gone more than 30 yards in the air.
No.
Yeah.
He had a couple, right?
Yeah. Couple tonight.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like just in this game, in Bryant-Denny Stadium. I cannot emphasize this enough.
Beautiful moonshots, right? And obviously great catches on those too, but just dropped him in. Let Worthy, let A.D. Mitchell run underneath him. That was really impressive. Look, Quinn Ewers, 349 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks.
Crazy what happens when Quinn Ewers doesn't get knocked out in the first quarter against Alabama, ain't it? It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, you know what? It's back. I don't think Texas is back, but I'm wondering, is Quinn Ewers the best quarterback in the country back?
Oh, that was an original Tom Fornelli take after one quarter via the Cover 3 group chat.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I think the people are talking about it again. I think Quinn Ewers played very well. I think Xavier Worthy had some moments. I think Quinn Ewers could have had a better game if Xavier Worthy could catch. In fact, I think Xavier Worthy would be a great wide receiver if he could catch. But
he still was awesome. Hold on, before you dive into that, I'm not going to let that Xavier Worthy.
I'm sorry, you don't drop 2 touchdowns and say he was awesome. He dropped 2 touchdowns.
There was a point in the second quarter, middle stages of the game, where I was calling him Devonta Worthy because Sark was back in his 22. No. Listen. It's about the play calling, right?
Okay.
Because they put him in the backfield and motioned him in the flat. They were sitting there and throwing screens to him. It was almost like the way that they used Devonta Smith in the 2020 season was like, okay, we're just going to keep moving Devonta Smith around. He's going to be outside receiver. He's going to be inside receiver. He's going to be in the backfield. And I think this was first half, actually, now that I'm sort of recalling it. But it was not my final. I did not write in my write-up that he was Devonta Worthy. But it was very clear that Xavier Worthy was getting that Steve Sarkisian favorite player treatment there for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. I think Steve Sarkisian, I tweeted about this. I think he called an excellent game. I think Steve Sarkisian is still one of the best play callers in the country and kind of proved it again today. He, took what he did for Alabama to help them win those national titles and used it right against them. He confused their defense the same way he confused other defenses the last few years while he was with them. And I think that, Texas really struggled to run the ball. Alabama's defensive line, I think that was one thing that we saw last week against Middle Tennessee that I think still is legit. That is a very good defensive front. Texas was not able to really move the ball against them. What would concern me more from Alabama, aside from losing, is the offensive line looked a lot like last year's offensive line again. They couldn't run the ball. Unless it was Jalen Milroe kind of scrambling and running for his life, they weren't really getting any push in the middle of that. In fact, Milroe was under pressure a lot. So it looked, again, kind of like and again, I say this in the context of Alabama. I don't say it in the context of the entire country. But that looked like a mid-Alabama offensive line.
Yeah, they look, for this Bama team to be as good as it needs to be, you needed the offensive line to take that jump. And they just clearly have not yet. Now, will they? I don't know. But like Caden Proctor, granted, he's playing on a huge stage, but he's still a true freshman. And Texas took advantage of him at times, right? Like Texas has enough physicality up front now, finally, on the defensive line, to where they don't get pushed around too much.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we had the questions along the lines of scrimmage last week against Rice, right? And we wondered on the show, like, is this a problem with Texas' offensive line, or has Texas just been repping Bama for 3 weeks in a row and didn't really kind of prep for whatever junk ball defense Rice was going to throw at them? I think we might have our answer, guys. I mean, Bama had 2 tackles for loss.
Mm-hmm.
Average third down distance was almost double for Bama. Sark kept these guys ahead of the chains.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the one thing, but like you mentioned, like first down, Texas averaged 7.9 yards per play. Alabama averaged 4.6. They were constantly putting themselves in kind of like second and longish situations. With when you have Jalen Milroe as your QB, those aren't situations you're trying to get into, because it's really hard to stay on schedule with a guy who throws a very pretty deep ball. It's not the most accurate deep ball, and he's not very accurate underneath either. So it was a problem that they were dealing with all night, and it's a problem that they're going to probably continue dealing with this season, because, I mean, he looked great against Middle Tennessee. He didn't look great tonight. He looked great in flashes, but going forward, there's going to be more tough opponents on this schedule, and they're still clearly, I don't know that they have their answer at QB yet.
I'm not sure how many tough opponents remain on the schedule, but if they did take care of all the opponents left, because LSU has to come to Tuscaloosa, which obviously is difficult, there is an opponent at the end of the schedule that I don't think you can beat with Jalen Milroe unless he takes a massive, massive step, and that would be Georgia.
Right? Sorry. I thought you were talking about Auburn.
Well, I don't know what's going on right now with that one, but
they're winning.
I've got 7-3.
Auburn's winning. Okay.
That's the last time I got eyes on it. So
gotcha.
The culture war is still hanging in the balance as we, the culture war trophy is actually hanging in the balance as we swing back and forth.
We really need to hammer that home, that whole culture war rivalry between these two.
I put it in our workroom today with a capital C and a capital W, really trying to make it happen. It's the culture war trophy. And it'll be settled probably after we finish here. I don't know. It depends on how much the group wants to talk about. Boise State, UCF. I'm so sorry, Tom. I shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have done a lock fight. Anyway, back to Alabama. So I thought that there was a spot where Alabama was going to be able to just figure this out, where they got a couple of breaks, kind of lucky breaks. You hit the big, the Jermaine Burton touchdown. Like all of a sudden you start to think, okay. Everything that we had talked about, Bryant-Denny Stadium at night with the big team in town. How about Steve Sarkisian in that, after the game, be like, yeah, I didn't want to tell them that they're 52-1 in their last 53 here. Now they're 52-2. Sick, just sick stuff from Sark right there. I thought that Alabama was still in this thing probably longer than, the algorithm thought that Alabama was still in this thing just because of the way that I've been programmed to understand Alabama. But the inconsistency on offense, I don't think is just going to doom them in an SEC championship game. And I understand that, like Thomas mentioned so many times, the SEC is horrible this year. The SEC is down, and we should all just trash conference, top to bottom.
Well, no, let's give credit to Mississippi State did beat Arizona in overtime. So the conference is bouncing back.
Yeah, they got it done in overtime at home, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mississippi State got it done in overtime at home against Arizona. But there are going to be spots that are going to be challenging. And that includes, as you mentioned, like LSU coming to Bryant-Denny Stadium. It is such a wild proposition where we're either going to throw 40-yard touchdown passes or we're going to do quarterback runs, and that's the entire offense.
Yeah.
But that is the entire offense, right? I mean, have we seen anything else that has been successful from Alabama?
Look, unfortunately, Milroe was dropping back and leaving clean pockets too. He's not comfortable sitting back there behind the line of scrimmage, surveying and finding somebody. Now, he's actually kind of effective running around and then finding somebody. But like if your entire offense is scramble drill, could you beat Texas A&M? We'll get to that. Probably. Could you beat LSU? Yeah, their DBs are still kind of trash, right? Could you beat Ole Miss or Mississippi State or Auburn? I think it's very possible. But at Alabama, guys, like the goal is not just beating those teams. The goal is making the playoff and winning the playoff. And we talked about this all offseason. Wow, Tyler Buckner was the transfer they went out and got. Like they believe in Milroe. They believe in these guys. And it's one game, right? So like I'm not going to do the thing where this guy can't play based on one game, but it is.
Do the thing.
Do it. Do it.
Do it. I think he can play. I think that you can win a lot of football games with the deep ball and the quarterback run. But the problem is the standard. The standard is not. Yeah, like I tell you what, this Alabama team right now, they can go 9-3, easy. They do a sweat-free 9-3.
Yep, they could.
They could do a sweat-free 9-3. They could accomplish nothing more than the quality they showed tonight and go 9-3. And for most teams in the country, going 9-3 is a really good season. But that is not a good season at Alabama. They have got to get better than they were tonight to do something better than 9-3. Because 10 more tonights is 9-3.
Yeah. There's going to be the whole, I'm sure Danny will be saying it on Monday, the whole Alabama is dead kind of thing. And I've said that I think they're dying, but I refuse to say that it's dead simply because in this age, they're literally just one transfer QB away from being Alabama again. But things have not been trending in the right direction for 3 seasons now. And it's getting concerning. Like, it's one thing to not win the national title, even though you've got the number 1 pick in the NFL draft at QB for 2 seasons. It's another thing when you're losing at home. When, like you said, what were they, 52-1?
Yep.
That's just, there's a lot of warning signs coming. That's all I'm saying.
How many quarterbacks were in the transfer portal this offseason who you guys watched today who Alabama could have won this game with? Do they win the game with Sam Hartman?
Yes.
I think it's probably closer.
I think they do. I think you're able to you hit a lot more singles and doubles with Sam Hartman than you do with Jalen Milroe and the home runs. I think they do win this game because Texas was messing around for a long time. They could have put this game away early and built a huge lead. They dropped touchdowns. They had to settle for field goals. They let Alabama hang around. I think if you let Sam Hartman hang around with Alabama wins this game.
I think that's fair. Like obviously Bo Nix was a last year transfer, so he doesn't count. It wasn't an amazing transfer quarterback class. Like you don't win it with Graham Mertz.
No.
Am I missing somebody?
No,
I'm sure the chat will inform.
No, listen, Devin Leary's
certainly not Tanner Mordecai.
Yeah.
No, not Devin Leary.
Not Peyton Thorne.
Luke Altmaier, you probably win this game with.
Maybe.
Well, if you took a swing, the guy you'd probably take a swing at would have been Drake May. And they didn't get him.
Ooh,
Shedeur Sanders.
Shedeur Sanders wins this game.
I think Shedeur Sanders wins this game. Yeah.
I think he does
I'm
too.
Sorry,
yeah.
You mean the Shedeur Sanders who's got 903 yards?
Okay. Hudson Card.
2 games.
You know what? Hudson Card, I think you could, because I like Hudson Card. Because remember, Hudson Card almost beat Alabama last year. And I don't think Hudson Card's looked great, but I'm not a huge Graham Harrell fan. So I don't know how much I would put that on Card than the offense he's playing in at the moment, but I can't rule it out. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and say they do win with Hudson Card, but I won't rule it out.
DJU?
No, because he's Milroe.
Yeah.
It's run and big plays.
I think that's fair.
Big arm. Yeah, no, this is listen, they got to get better. What about the Texas side? So as longtime listeners know, one of the things I do on Saturdays is tomorrow's top 25 today, a projection of the new AP top 25 poll. I've got Texas at 3.
Whew. I can see that. It's crazy to think.
Look at this. One of the biggest wins of one of the biggest wins of the 21st century. How about since Texas won the national championship in 2005? This is probably one of the biggest wins. If you're watching at youtube.com/cover3, shout out to Jordan for pulling the graphic here. The win against Alabama is one of the largest that they have had in terms of beating a top 25 opponent since 2000, 34-24 at number 23 Alabama. The last one we had 2010 at number 5 Nebraska, 20-13. Then you go the Oklahoma game, Red River, 45-35 back in 08. And then a couple games in 05, Ohio State in the regular season, USC in the national championship game, the Vince Young game. I just think that this is a Texas program that while we laugh them off about Texas and being back, we have not actually put them in this position in a long time. They looked ready for it, man.
They had to do the little things right. They have won so many games where they, like they did tonight, outgained the opponent by 110 yards, right? Hit some big flashy plays and then messed up some little things. Tonight, they didn't do that. They were better than Alabama at the small stuff too, and that's huge.
It's crazy to think it's been so long since Texas got a top 5 win that it was Nebraska ranked in the top 5 at the time. That feels like it had to be decades ago.
Anything else there? Because that's a fantastic transition.
How far do you drop Bama?
Thank you.
Oh, I got Bama at here. I think it's 10.
Sorry, Tom. I apologize for messing up your transition.
No. I mean,
so Bama behind Tennessee, Bama behind Notre Dame.
Bama ahead of Tennessee. I've got Notre Dame making a little jump. I think that was a prove-it win.
Bama ahead of Washington?
Bama behind Washington.
It better be. It's Washington. I mean, I know Washington's schedule to this point hasn't been incredible, but Washington has looked so damn good.
Yeah.
They didn't punt today.
No. I don't think they punted since 2022.
Washington has had as many punts as the three of us combined.
If Washington stays healthy, they're going to be really, really hard to beat. That's the key. I think we know preseason that they are not very deep, but if they stay healthy, that's like a really, really good team that plays together all the time, that basically ran it back almost entirely on offense. So
I felt like Tennessee and Utah, with the fact that they did not deliver of inspiring performances, even in wins, that set the floor for Alabama. If the AP voters are still blinded by Alabama, then maybe they end up higher. And my projection of 10, I think it's the floor. Okay. The reasoning that I explained is that this same group of AP voters gave Alabama the lowest preseason ranking that they'd had since 2009. So they already have doubt. Like, they came into the season thinking that Alabama was not up to the standard. So that's my thought there.
All right. Do the first 2 weeks make this a one-bid league, the SEC?
Yes.
I do. I totally agree.
Yeah.
What if Georgia wins out, Alabama wins out, and then Alabama beats Georgia in the title game?
Georgia should not go. With that joke of a non-conference schedule and with the SEC collapsing around itself, I mean, like, what's Georgia's best win going to be?
All right, see, you're using logic and reason.
The defending champion losing
for your argument. I'm
yeah.
using CFP thought process.
But you're also reaching for the corners at this point, right? Like the general principle of the question, as we sit here after week 2, or with week 2 winding down, is the SEC a one bid league now? I think yes.
Is it a 0-bid league?